Hi, my name is Rohit. I'm an architect at Synergip Softech, and today I'll be talking about how to develop Sencha Touch 2 applications. So before we begin, we need to have the Sencha Touch SDK loaded in our machines. For this thing, you will require two things from Sencha Touch. The first thing being you will require the open source version of Sencha Touch 2, which will be the SDK, and you will need to install a SDK tools beta for developer. Once you have done so, what we will do is we will go to the directory where we have Sencha Touch 2 SDK extracted. I already have Sencha Touch beta tool installed on my Mac, so I already have this. Now, from the directory where you have Sencha Touch SDK, you should type in Sencha, and you'll get various options. What we really want to do is you want to create a Sencha app. So I'll say Sencha app. This will give me more options, and I'll go and write Sencha app create. This will give me options. So I'm going to say Sencha app create first app, and I'm going to get a path to something which is already set. I'm going to say generate all the files. This has generated all the files are required. And you will see the structure over here. For this particular demo, I'm going to use WebStorm as a tool. So I'm going to go to WebStorm and I'm going to say open the training directory and open the project. That's where you see the things loaded. What I want to do next is I want to launch Chrome in such a way that I don't actually have to worry about loading HTML files from my file system, and I don't have to worry about web security. So I will say a couple of things. I already have a command listed. I'll say open application Chrome app. I'm going to give the first argument as allow file access from files. This means I can use file : / URLs to run my Sencha Touch application. Second thing I'm going to talk about is disable web security, because I want to make AJAX calls to certain domains which are not the same domains in which this application is hosted. In fact, this application is not hosted anywhere. So I'm going to fire this. It's going to open Chrome. Be aware that you need to close your Chrome and fire it. This is where we open things. And what we will do is we will right click this index.html and say open in browser. And this will open our first Sencha Touch application. There we have it. Let's just go to WebStorm and start to take a look at what are we doing over here. So in this application, we have got index.html, which is auto-generated file, and we got this app loading indicator, which is a CSS which shows loading icon using WebKit keyframes. You get a micro loader which loads things for you, and you got this div in which you are showing that ... indicator of loading. So what you're going to look at is the app directory and things like app.json. App.json contains information about the project. This is a metadata information. We talk about name, first name, JS files, which file to be loaded by the macro loader. We are saying that okay, we definitely want to load the Sencha touch files. And we're also talking about loading apart.js. Apart from we talking about loading app.css file. Now this is in general the manifest file for a particular thing. Now we are not going to worry about this file. We'll look at the app.js file. This is the main file, and let me read this file out to you. Now we don't need to make changes to this particular file, but I'll still try to explain this file. So you're going to talk about ext loader set path. This is just for debug information, forget about it. In Sencha, you create objects using configuration. So in this case, we are saying we want to create application using a configuration. The whole configuration is enclosed into these two braces, and this is the configuration information. Here we are saying that the application namespace is first name. It requires, this is like an import, it requires a ext message box, and it has views as main. Couple of icons and things, and this is one of the key methods, which is launched. So in this case, we are saying exe fly app loading indicator, which you can see is this particular div, and we are saying we want to destroy it. Then we are saying we want to add to the viewport. When you say viewport, it typically means the entire screen, and we want to add a view called as first app.view.main. And don't worry about this onUpdated method. I won't be covering this in this particular session. Now let's expand to different areas. So the application resides in your app folder. Your control directory is empty. Your model directory is empty. Your profile directory is empty. Your store is empty. All you have is something called as main.js. This is a very interesting concept. Here we are saying I want to create a view called as main, which extends exe tab, and we are talking about it by saying this. Any class, whether it's controller, model, store, or view, will begin or should begin with the keyword ext begin. So we are trying to exe define. So we are trying to define a new class, and look at the structure what you're passing. We are saying first app.view.main. And look at the directory structure. It is exactly the same way. Its first app is a directory. App is a namespace, then view is the directory inside the app, and inside is main.js is the directory. So that's the package name. It extends ext tab.panel, and it requires a ext title bar to show on the top. This is pretty much a structure in which you define your views. Then whatever you define comes as a config. So ext.js follows a way of creating views, models, stores, proxies, anything, controller, by doing simple things. It defines the class name with the package. It says what extends what. It says, do I require to import something? And as all the information is mentioned in configuration. In this case, we are saying that this tab bar needs to be positioned below at the bottom, and then every view typically is a kind of container which contains items. In this case, we're talking about two items, and which is welcome and getting started. I won't go into this. So what I'll do first of all is I'll go into main.js and I'll remove these two things, and we'll start to implement these things from scratch. So let me show the Chrome browser which I have open, and I'm gonna remove everything. So everything is gone now. So let's create things again. So what I want to show is something called as a home screen. So I'm going to write a new class called as home. It becomes home.js. I will say ext.define with small d, and I'm going to start writing first app.view.main, and I'm going to give it a configuration property. Now here the first thing which I wanted to tell is what class am I extending. So in this case I'm saying I'm extending a simple panel, and I'll give it this thing an X type. An X type is more or less a class, a type defined. This is a shortcut way of defining things. In config I'll define a couple of things. Because this panel goes inside a type panel, I need to provide two properties for it. One is the title, which I'll say is home, and second thing is the icon. The Sencha Touch defines number of inbuilt icons. One of them is called as home icon. So if we define things like this, we are saying we are creating a class called as first app view.home, ext extends ext panel, type is home, configuration it should have title name home, and it should use icon name home. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to app.js, and I'm going to add this particular class over here, and then I'm going to go to main, and I'm going to add an item. And this time, instead of defining anything, I'm just going to say I want to add the view for which I gave the X type as home. Let's see if this code runs. So hooray, it is running. So let's add something more to home. So we'll add a couple of properties to home. We will say layout is fit. Now some of the properties, you must be wondering, how do I know which properties I need to mention over here? Let me run you through a simple thing. So when I run you through the Sencha Touch documentation, which is locally available, you can search for ext panel. In ext panel, you'll see three things: the config, the properties, the methods, and event. Typically, you won't see many properties, but you will see most things in config and methods and events. So in the config, you can see what else I'm defining for this thing. So one of the things which I define for a ext panel is the layout. And the layout can have different kind of type. In this case, we are saying fit because at one time we only want to show one layout. Let's look at some of the more properties which we can define. I'm going to go for that. I want to style my content whichever I show, and I also want to give it a class name. So I'm going to use this style HTML content and style HTML CLS. Also, my page could be bigger than what the screen size is. So I would like to say scrollable is true. So I'm going to define that particular thing. So now I'm going to go back to my web storm. I'm going to start saying layout is fit, scrollable is true. I'll say style HTML content is true, and therefore use this particular class for home. That all is fine. Where do you define what goes inside this panel? So let's go again and let's look at HTML. Here you can define the HTML string. So I'll say HTML, and I'll define it in a different manner. This is how I'll define it. This is same like saying, but because I want to put things in multi-line, I choose to go this route. So I'm going to say h1 welcome to first app. Then what I want to do next is I'm going to add a second line. And I'll say and so on. This is your first Sencha Touch 2 app. Now that all is done, I'll come over here and I'll try to run this thing. So see, there we have it, but it's not the way I want to have it. So I'll say something else over here. I'll say home page. I'll come to the index.html. You see there's a portion over here. I'm defining the CSS. I'll just say home page h1 color red, home page p text align center. I'm going to repeat this thing over here. Now we'll go back to my Chrome and it should have taken this. So this is how you debug things and see what do you have where. So clearly we're missing some property somewhere. So let's try one more time. If I see it, yes, I think there was a mistake. CSS. You see this, and we clearly want our h1 to be bigger. So we're gonna go over here. We're gonna say font size 22 pt, and there we go. We add it. It becomes larger. And if you actually compress these things seem the way we want on a mobile phone. Good. So now we have it there. That's great. Let's add another file in which you're going to say places. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to show Google Places listing. So if I take you back over here, this is the URL which I have for Google Places, and using this URL and the key which I have, I get the JSON text saying that these are the places which you search for. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a particular location for a radius of 100 meters, find me food with name harbor, and show me the listing. That is the idea over here. I'm going to define again, go ahead, exe define, I'm going to say first app dot view dot places, and I'm going to declare things. Again, extend. So you need to decide what you want to extend. I will say in this case I'm extending a navigation view, because the first thing which I want to, no, I'll extend a panel itself, and I want to give the X type places. Now we're going to give it the configuration, and again we need to give it title saying we are looking for places, and we need to give it an icon CLS. I'll say maps. Now we're going to go in app.js and declare it over here. We're going to go to main and add one more listing here. Call us places. We're doing this because we mentioned the X type over here as places. Let's go to the first app and see what we see. We are seeing two things, and there's nothing in the places. Let's do one more thing to both these pages. We want to add a title bar on top of things. So we'll go and do that. So we'll go to home, and I'm going to say that apart from this, I want to add a list of items. And I will add the first item as X type title bar to the title home page. And I'm going to say I want it to be docked to the top. Let's see if this takes effect. So there you see a title bar being docked. We'll use the same thing, put it in places. I'm going to say place listing. So now you see that we are in place listings, and we can go back, clicking on the tabs. That looks better. So let's closely look at this particular information. This is one of the entries which we want to use to model our model, because we want to show this listing. So let's go with some simple things. Let's go to the icon, the name, and the vicinity. So we will go, because we want to show a list over here, we want to tell this what items do we want to show. So I'm going to say over here, create a model class by saying exdefine first app dot model dot place, and I'm going to extend ext data of model, and I'm going to configure it. In the configuration, all I need to do is define the fields. So I'm going to say its name, its icon, and its vicinity. These are the fields which I have. What I will do next is I'll declare a store, and declare a store with hard-coded values. So a store is something which is used to communicate, not only which is used to store information. This store can get information either from an AJAX call or RESTful call, a database, which is local storage, or a hard-coded data. So we're going to create the first store with hard-coded data. So here we go. I'm going to call the stores as places. I'm going to say ext define first app dot store dot places. I'm going to define a configuration for it, and I'm going to say it extend ext.data.store, and then I'm going to say config model is place, and data is hard-coded. And here I'll start defining it. I'll say name is equal to name1, icon is equal to icon1, and vicinity is equal to vicinity1. Now we'll repeat a couple of these items so we can actually see that it's a list of things. All I'm going to do is change things over here. So that looks great. Now I'll go to places and I'll add one more item over here, and I'll say it is called as list, and its store is called as places. And I'm going to say that I want to display the information for that particular thing using an app in TPL, which is a template. I'm going to say name, comma, icon, comma, vicinity, and I'm gonna see if this runs. That didn't run, probably because I need to specify some more parameters. Let's see. Let's debug this. So it looks like we're not able to load any data. So it's in specified store cannot be found, and that is because we have to go in amp.js and declare over here we're looking for places as a store. We'd also mention the models which we are declaring as place. That's a missing step. Now let's see if this loads. So again we are getting an error. I'll just give the full path over here. Let's see if that solves the problem. That does solve the problem. The reason I'm walking you through all these problems is how to debug things. So if you see, whatever information I give in that particular thing is displayed over here. That is what the item TPL is. So let's revise. I declare a place. I mention what all fields I'm interested in. I declare a places, which is a store, and in which I mention which model I want to populate and with what data I want to populate. Then I go to the app.js and I mention the models and the stores. Note that in the stores I'm using the complete package name for the model. Then I go to my places.js, which is the view which has a listing called as list, and I'm mentioning there that I'm interested in places. So let's just change this to go from static data to more dynamic data. So how do we do that? Well, this requires a few more lines of configuration, and let's try that. So I'm going to say I want a proxy, and the URL, the type for the proxy is Ajax, and the URL for that thing is this. We declare that. We're going to run into some problems, so I'll do this, and I'll say the reader so what I'm really doing over here is trying to declare that where does the store load information from. We are saying it loads information from a proxy which is of type Ajax, which goes to this URL, fetches information, whatever it reads, it uses the JSON reader to read it. So it's going to read information over here. If you see, the array is contained under the property results. So we're going to go over here and say properties results. And we're going to give one more property called as auto load true. So this store will load itself when the application starts. Let's see if we are able to load something over here. So good, when I go over here, it is trying to load something, and let's see if it is able to load it. Great. So I'm able to load things. My connection is a bit slow, so I got all these things listed over here. It looks a bit weird. So let's just work to make this, look nicer. So I'll go back. So let's just revise. In the store, I'm saying, first of all, I'll comment out the hard-coded data. I'll say that I want the store to auto-load itself. I'm going to give it the proxy to actually go and load information from Ajax using this particular URL, and what is written is JSON. So I'm going to use a JSON reader which reads the JSON and finds the results under the result property results. So we need to make this better looking. So here what we're going to do is we're going to say image src is equal to $icon and image. I'm going to say h1 and I want to say the vicinity appears as an h3. Let's just see how this whole thing looks like. So it looks nice, but overall what's happening is too big, too clumsy. So we're going to style this thing to make it look better. So what I'll do over here is I'll try to give an CLS saying place entry. And I'm going to go in my HTML page and I'm going to start creating some CSS classes. I'll say place entry dot img, height is 40 pixel, width is 40 pixels. I'm going to say padding is 5 pixels, border is 1 pixel, solid black, and I'm going to give it a radius of 5 pixels. Let's see if this affects things. So you can say that looks much better. Now what we really want is these things to come on top. And instead of using tables, we're going to use CSS to make it happen. So I'm going to give this a property called as float left. And I'll say to place entry dot h1 float left. I'm going to say place entry h3 clear both. So once I do that, we should see some difference in how things are looking. That looks great, but this title is clicking to the icon and this is just coming below it. So let's just give some kind of a padding or margin from the right side and make the title, make the header look bigger. So I'm going to say over here margin left is 10 pixels and text font size is 16 pt, and here I'm going to say margin left is 50 px, and let's see if things align properly. Yeah, they do, and I can have the title look slightly bigger, so I'm going to say instead of 16, 22. So that looks great. What happens is when I compress these things, it again starts to look crappy. This is not acceptable. So how do we use that? So we use CSS tree to fix this, but we do use that in templates. So in places, I'm just going to say ellipsis 30. Let's see what happens at 30. So see, anything which goes beyond 30 gets cut off, but it's still too much. Let's keep it at 25. And the same thing applies to over here, but with a larger value because the font is small. So you see, now everything is fixed in like this, and this is a great looking app. So that looks pretty decent. Now what we really want to do is, if I want to click on this, I need to take me to a page where I'll see the details of this particular thing, and we will work on that example and see how does it look. Let me expand this back over here. So now what we're going to do is, since we're done with places, we will create two new classes. One is called as details, and we'll say ext define first app view.details, and I'm going to say extend ext.panel, simple panel, and I'll say x type is details and config is more or less what we give it to the home. So let's go to home and try to copy all this information and put in details. Of course, we'll name the class as this. So that being done, you might assume that works pretty well. However, we'll add an entry over here saying that we want a details page. The problem now is there's no parent for places in detail because they need to come up in the same place. So we're going to declare a new layout or view called as places container, which is something which we call as the navigation view. So we're going to say first app.view.places container, give the configuration, make it extend ext.navigation view, give it the x type, telling it it's places container, and here you're going to mention the configuration. Now understand that the navigation view has a cart layout. That means at one time it can only show one thing. So in this case, I'm going to put the first item as places, and I'll make an entry over here before this. The order is not important, but just to tell that place and place detail actually live in place. This is container. I put it in that particular fashion. Now instead of saying places over here, I'll just say places container. Let me see if things work. Hopefully we have not missed anything. Or did I speak too early? So adding a card to tab layout without specifying any tab configuration. That's a very good point. What's happening is now the places container becomes a child of tab, so it actually needs these properties of the tab container. So we're going to say this thing's over here, so it can appear as a child of tab. So everything looks great, and we got two things called as places and places listing. So let us get rid of something over there. So I'm going to remove this part from over here and refresh things again. That looks much better. Now what I want to do is, when I click on this particular person, I want to navigate to my details view. For doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to say Sencha, and we will get a couple of options, and I'm going to say generate what, a controller named details controller. When I do that, it creates a details controller for me. You can do it by hand also. This is the one more way of doing things. So here we define the details controller. We got configs, refs, and control. I'll take you through what these are. And we got launch. Right now we're not going to use a launch functionality, so I'm going to delete it. Now, if you go to the app.js, you will see the controller entry is also being made here. So let's just try to do something when we click on these items. So controllers are initiated irrespective of what they are controlling. So the first thing we will do is, I really want to do is, I want to click on something which is inside my places container. So I'm going to take an X path of X types. So I'm going to say over here that inside my places container, inside my places, inside my list, I want to configure something. And here I'll say item tab. I'll say on item tab. Right? And here I'll define let's hold on. I'll just choose the shortcut because I'm not remembering that. So I'm going to declare something over here. Now I'm just going to say console.log item tapped. So this is like saying that if somebody taps on this particular list, you should call this. Let's see if that particular thing works. So I'm going to open my JavaScript console, not refresh this particular page, and go over here and click on something. So it is tapping on things, but as you can see over here, I don't know what it is tapping on. So I'll go to my documentation and I'll go this time to list to X type. So X type is a shortcut. You can also say exe data view list, and I'm going to say which event are we looking for. I'll say I'm looking for item tab, and it has the parameters called as list, index, target, and record. So I'm going to write over here list, index, target, and record, and I'll say over here record.get name tapped. Let's see, does that show us exactly which things we are tapping? Yes, it does show. So that's great. So what I really want to do over here is I actually want to push a view inside this particular thing. This is an exe navigation view. It's a stack of views. So at one time it will only show one thing, and if I push up some other view, it's gonna show me the second view, and it's gonna show me a back button to go back to the first view. So what I really want to do is within X type, I want to push it, but instead of using the X type as X part as we used over here, what we're going to do is we're going to declare something like places container, a property of ref. I'm going to say it uses a selector called as places container. What this really does is a very special thing. It gives you access to a method called as get places container, and you can push whatever you want over here. So I'm going to say details view is equal to ext. So instead of saying new, you say what view you want to create or what class you want to create. I'm going to say create an instance of a class called as first app dot view dot details, and I'm going to say this is what I want to push over here. Now this has a title class details, so we know what we are pushing. So this is how we deal with adding controllers. So this is the X path. It's a selector. It's saying get me the list inside the places, which is inside the places container, and on its item type you need to call these things. And here I want to create a new details view in this particular manner, and I want to get access to something called as places container, which is a navigation view in which I want to push the details view. Let's see if this code actually works. So when I click over here, yes, I go to details, I get a back button. See how automatically I get a back button over here. Now all you want to do is pass this information to details and show some of this information. So what I really want to do over here is I will go to my places. I will copy this thing over here. And now I no longer need to show the ellipses because I can show the entire thing because I got space to show it. So I'm going to go into my details, and instead of saying HTML, I'm going to say TPL, it's template. And here I will say, I'll put everything and I'll just remove ellipses because I don't want to hide anything. So here I'll go to the index.html and I'll repeat these things, just that I'll say details. My image can be bigger over here. And everything can be clear both. So I think this comes one after another. One thing which is missing to do is when I'm in my details things, I need to pass a data to it. So I'll say the details view set data recorded data. And details things will get data is going to show these things. So let's see if this actually works. So I do that. I go over here and I go over here, and some things are still a mess in CSS, so I'm just going to fix it. I'm going to say overall I don't want a margin from the left side, but I'm just going to say that details has a padding of 20 px. So I'm going to go and do this, and you'll observe when I go to places, it loads up these places. I don't know what this says, Alt Ponty Harbor View. I go over here, I know what it's saying. Also over here, I don't know what's the full thing, so I'm going to say JB Bar Grill, and it's going to show these things. So this is the first app in which we use number of properties. Let's just recap a bit. First of all, we have index.js, which has a micro loader. It has a div, which is talking about loading the applications. The app.json defines that it's going to load Sencha touch library and our app.js. Our app.js has all the required controllers, model, views, and stores. And on launch, it destroys the app loading dev and it puts in the first view. My view is extending ext tab panel, and it requires a title bar. And it's positioning the tab position bottom, and it has two items, one of type home and one of type places. The home is external ext panel, its x type is home, it has a title home, and I can see this as home so that it can be used as a child of a tab panel. It has a layout fit so that it covers the entire screen, and we are saying things are scrollable so we can scroll up and below. We are saying we want to style the HTML content, and we want to use the home page class to do so. Then we're going to give it an HTML to do so, and then we are added a title on top. In places, it's also extending ext places. It's quite similar things. We are saying the title as places, and I can see this as maps. Although this is not required anymore because, quite frankly, we are no longer children of a tab view. In the items, we are saying I want to put a list, and its store is places. Please use this template to show things, and whenever a name goes beyond 25 characters, put ellipsis over there. Same thing for vicinity, and use a place entry class. This is my store. This store extends data to store. It uses the model called as place. This is the model which says name, icon, vicinity. Over here I got a proxy, Ajax proxy, for going for this URL and loading it out, and I got a reader with type JSON, and it gets the data from the results part. Lastly, I got a controller which kicks into picture when the application loads up. Here we are saying that for the X part, it's a selector, that for a list which is inside places container, if somebody types item, you should call this function. Here we're going to create a details view. We're going to set a data to it, and we're going to get the reference of the navigation view called as places container from this particular ref, and we're going to push the data to it. So that's how things work out. and I can go back and front. So that's it for today's demo on first app. Thank you.